Welcome to the Core of Success podcast. Entrepreneurship, success, health, life, big things are in your future. And now, your hosts, Sean and Mike.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is episode 14 of the Core of Success podcast. This is a really special day. Couple things going on, and a couple things happened over the weekend that we'll kick around. But first of all, I want to thank you for being with us. Mike, nice to have you back in the same room again. I know you're always out on the road doing something.
Yeah, man. Look, I've been on the road, and it's been fantastic. I love it. I love meeting the customers and our friends out there, and that goes to our customers and fellow vendors, suppliers, and what's going on out here in the fitness world. So that's how you find out, right? You kind of go to where it is, and yeah, it's been awesome, but super excited to be back home, be back here in the office, and ready to rock and roll, man.
Yeah,
so
Q4,
good stuff.
Q4,
man, definitely.
So I know most people listening to this will hear it in a week or two, but today is October 21st, which is a Monday. Yesterday was 10/20. It was a Sunday, October 20th, and really nice day because the Cowboys absolutely destroyed the Eagles last night. And I know you at the Ritter household, that wasn't probably a good night, but the Gagnon house, that was a good thing.
Wow, yeah, that was not how I wanted to end my weekend for sure. As I said to you earlier, the positive side is that it was a night game. So I was a little bit late for my mom, and she was not able to join us at the Ritter house, or there would have been a lot of earmuffs for the kids, so to speak.
She's a diehard. So.
Yeah. The other positive side is I actually went to bed a little bit early because I said, the hell with this, I'm going to bed. So
it's funny when the Cowboys started really turning it on, the power went off in my house. I'm wondering if you had something to do with that.
Yeah. Shit, I wish it would have went off in my house. That would have been better, absolutely. That would have been a good excuse. But no, hey man, good win by your boys, and it goes back to it. Dougie P, the Eagles head coach, was saying, hey, he's guaranteeing a win and talking smack. Fired up the Cowboys. At the end of the day, the Eagles weren't prepared. So I don't know whether he was trying to pump himself up or try to motivate his own team, but they weren't prepared to play, obviously. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's always funny when someone guarantees anything. Those are big words, but as business owners, we know there are no guarantees. It does come down to the work and the preparation, which is why, Mike, I'm excited to announce something else. And that is today, we actually have our first guest that's not from the team, right? We've had some guests on from our team members, but today we have someone from the industry is going to join us and speak to the audience today. And I've known this guy for a bit, but we kind of lost touch. I followed him on social media. I follow along with what he's doing. But let me tell you a little bit about him. His name's Matt Scarfo, and he is a NASM certified personal trainer, among other certifications that they have. I know he has a CES certification and other things. So he's well educated and accomplished in that side. But he's a business owner. He owns a facility called Full Time Fitness, which is in Morristown, New Jersey, which is not just a fitness facility. And he'll tell us a little bit more about it, but an award-winning one for 10 years running, one of the best in New Jersey, which is incredible. He's a father. He's a family man and a coach.
Wow.
And he's also an adventure racer, does those Spartan races that you and I read about. We don't do those, so we read about those. But so needless to say, this guy is busy. So Matt, welcome to the Core of Success podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, thanks for taking the time. As I said, it's very clear that you're a busy guy, but fitting this in is awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the industry? What's your background?
So I own Full Time Fitness in Morristown. It's the second business that I've been fortunate to be a part of. About 10 years ago, I got out of a business that you and I are familiar with, Exercise Body Improvement Center. They were in Chester for a while. Mm-hmm. So about 20 years ago, didn't really do much with my time except try not to get into too much trouble. Ended up working out every day, living at home with my parents. And one day my mom just came downstairs and told me, you don't really have a good job, man. You're driving to Dover every day, working in a warehouse. Why don't you get a job as a personal trainer? So I started studying, went to county college for a few credits and started reading the ACE material and tested for that. And Actually failed it my first time, which was really disappointing for me because I put a lot of time into that. And I took that as I had a choice. I could either roll over and decide to do something else and take that as a sign, or take it as a challenge and run right into it. So I did the latter. Studied my ass off for the second round of it. 3 months later, went back, took the test again, and I aced it. And then just worked my way up through the industry and found myself in the fortunate position that I'm in right now.
That's awesome. I think there's a big lesson there. You put a lot of work in. Goes back to what we were just talking about with the football game, right? You put that work in, you're prepared, but sometimes it doesn't go your way, right? That's business, that's life, that's sports. And
Yeah,
like you said, you had that choice, right? You could have just said, screw it, I'll go back to the warehouse.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Go ahead. And also with your mom, big credit to your mom for kind of kicking the butt, right? To say, look, what you're doing isn't really your passion, isn't really what you love doing, right? She knew you love training, you love working out. Why don't you try that? Go after something you love, and that's where you'll be successful. So good on your mom too for that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, she got tired of just watching me hang out with my friends and go to the bar, and I guess, moms always have, I don't know if they have grand ambitions for their kids, but they always want to see their kids feel successful, and however their kids choose to define that. And I know that she felt that I really wasn't behaving that way. And at 19, 20 years old, it was time. You're either going to get your ass in gear, or you're going to end up being that 45, 50-year-old guy sitting at the corner of the bar, keeping the seat warm for the last 10 years, waiting for your opportunity to walk in the door. And that never happened. So she lit a fire underneath my ass and compelled me to go get it, which I guess, failing that test the first time, actually, I use that as a framework for a lot of the adversity and a lot of the challenges that I guess come up. And I think a lot of people do this in a similar way where, you always have a choice. You can either take it as a sign or interpret it as a sign that you're not meant to do something and decide to do something else, or you can look at it like, no, I set my heart out to accomplish this the first time. I'm not going to stop until I get it done. And then after I finish it, I can decide if I want to continue or not. But, if you wrote that line item down and you need to check that box, then, before you can do anything else, you got to check that box, or at least that's how I see it.
Love it.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things we talk a lot here about at the Abs Company and the Core Success is that word choice, right? You had a choice to make, and it's not just, it didn't just happen. You have a choice now that you're going to move on or you're going to fold. And, obviously you chose the former. You decided to move on and keep going, and here you are. So 20 years is a long time to be in any industry. I've been in fitness 25 years. Mike's been in it and that as long as well. But what do you love about it? What do you love about the fitness industry that's kept you in it for so long?
What's kept me in it for so long is that I've felt successful. I've always felt successful while I've been doing it. And, I think that whenever we embark on any kind of endeavor, if we set our heart to something and we feel like we're making progress through it, and the progress is sufficient to satisfy, our own ambitions, then, we keep with it. So, I mean, honestly, I probably would be, I'd like to think that I'd be successful no matter what I was doing. But as far as the industry goes, it's something that I know. It's something that I'm very familiar with. I'm really a factual science-based thinker. So it really being a science field has kept me in it. And there's always something to learn. And our understanding, our interpretation of our understanding of the information changes over time. So it's always something new. What we thought we knew 15, 20 years ago is often not considered to be fact nowadays, just because we've, as the industry grows, we work with more clients, we've got more experience collectively that we can share amongst each other, and we can use that to help the next client and the next client and the next client. So, I mean, what do I love about the industry? I think that the people are great. The people that are in it for the right reasons are great. The ones that want to better themselves in the profession, the ones that want to continue to learn and continue to grow their toolkit and their offerings to their clients to reach a wider base, to help a greater number of people in new and in different ways, those are the people that make the industry, I think, so appealing to so many other people. And plus, you get to make your own, you make your own schedule, you make your own hours. As a personal trainer, you can decide you don't want to work mornings on these days. You've got a lot of flexibility with that, but depending on how much flexibility you want, I think that greatly determines your success, which, to your point before, 20 years is a long time to be in the fitness industry, 25 years even for you. I find that in this industry, you see people that are in it for anywhere from 1 to 5, 1 to 7 years. And then from 8 to 15 years, there's doldrums. There's very few people that have been legitimately working as fitness professionals with 8 to 15 years of experience. That's a hard time to get through. And then you've got the veterans that are in it as long as we have. So I think that if you can make it to the 10-year mark in the fitness industry, if you haven't already established a pretty good foundation for yourself, a pretty good reputation and a business, then that's probably why we see so many people drop off after a period of time. Or we see a number of people start letting their certifications lapse. They look at it more as a part-time engagement. Nobody's really holding their feet to the fire, making sure that they maintain their credentials and their certifications. And they kind of get away with doing their business. I'd like to say it's in the shadows, but it's a whole lot more prevalent than we think it is. So, I think that the people have really kept me here. The fact that I've been able to change so many people's lives has kept me here. And the inspiration that I get from other fit pros that are trying to make themselves better, certainly motivate me to make myself better and continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting what you say there about that timing, where a lot of people get into it, and they come in with these high hopes and these aspirations, and 1, 3, 5 years they're gone because things didn't maybe go the way that they planned. But that's why I asked the question about what do you love about it, because you have to love it, right? You have to love any industry to stick with it, but because it's not easy. There's not an industry that you can walk into and be like, oh, I'm going to make it right away. But this one especially, we both started as personal trainers, and that, wow, it's feast or famine a lot of times. So you have to love changing lives, as you said. Yeah, and then it really, it opens up from there. You see all the possibilities that are out there of where you can go in this fitness industry. And, you kind of took that from your trainer days to actually going in and becoming a gym owner at that point, and still to this day. And that's something that wouldn't have happened had you left it after 1 or 3 years, right? So
Certainly.
Tell us a little bit about that journey. Like, how did you go from, what's your entrepreneurial story? I was reading a little bit about it, and you have the, almost every entrepreneur has the I sold candy as a kid story, which is cool. It's kind of in the DNA, which is awesome. But tell us a little bit about it.
So, yeah, when I was in elementary school, I remember seeing, their little fads go through school, and, kids are wearing certain things, kids are doing certain things. And I saw that a lot of kids were walking around with blow pops in their mouth. I guess that was kind of the adolescent version of the, mid and late teen tweaker days, where kids were walking through high school with pacifiers and Jankos and stuff like that. But they were walking around with these blow pops, and I told my mom, they're paying $1.50 for these at the store. Why don't we buy a box and I'll sell them for 50 cents? And she wasn't too keen on that idea because she thought she'd end up losing money. But every time she bought me a box of blow pops, I'd end up paying her back within 2 or 3 days. And that turned into a little venture for me. And that, just to see growth, to see progress, to see success in that, you start with, from one place, you get to another. You start with a small number, you get to a bigger number. You start with small goals, you get to bigger goals. And I think that kind of is woven into my fabric. So, probably took a couple of years off from that mentality in my mid and late teens. And then once my mother had compelled me to go get my personal training certification, I went. Finally I got it, applied for a number of different jobs in the area. Back in the year 2000, fitness was big, but it's not as big as it is now. A lot of people, it wasn't the popular industry to get into, so there wasn't a tremendous amount of competition, certainly not the amount that there is now. But I went around to a whole bunch of gyms, found Exercise in Chester, who at the time, a girl that I had gone to school with was the sales director. You remember Anna? She was there, blonde girl.
Yeah.
back in like 2000. So she was one grade above me in high school. So we were familiar with each other, and I went for a job. Andy interviewed me. Andy actually said that she wasn't going to hire me at first. I went in there. I was a little too young and naive. I went in there. I had my visor on. I had shorts, a white T-shirt that was probably a little bit too tight. Really didn't take it seriously. I didn't really think of. I don't know. I thought it was a gym job. I thought this was going to be easy. And
Gallon of water, fanny pack.
you know. So Andy wasn't going to hire me, it turns out, and Anna was nice enough to put in a good word for me. So Andy took the chance, and I got hired as a trainer there, and I worked. For me, the pay was great, and I didn't have any other commitments or any other job. I only lived right up the street. So finding out what I was getting paid per session, I figured if I can just load up 10, 12, 14 hours a day training, I'd make myself some pretty good money. And that's pretty much what I did. I turned into a yes man. I knew that if I wanted to get to where I wanted to go, I'd have to do a lot of things that I didn't want to do. So my default answer was always yes. And once I found myself in a shitty situation, I'd end up just working my way through it, doing the best job that I could and getting it behind me.
Yeah.
So trained there for a couple of years. The sales director position had come up, interviewed for that twice, didn't get it. I was just too green. It was a little disheartening. And Andy, the PT director at the time, ended up being a confidant of mine, and she started to mentor me. Told her, I don't know what's next for me. If I can't move up, then I got to move out. I don't know where to go from here if I keep getting passed up. She talked me off the ledge. And next time the sales director position came around, I went in there and took her advice, and I crushed it. Got the job, and then eventually general manager, personal training director. I think I was about 6.5 years in, found myself in a fortunate position to make the owner an offer for a minority share of the company. Initially, he declined it, and I felt like I hit that glass ceiling again. This was as high as I was going to be able to go. Took the words that Andy had told me about 5 years prior, took them to heart, and said, you know what, I'm just going to carry on, keep doing the best job that I can, and make sure that if and when the opportunity does represent itself, that I'm ready for it. And lo and behold, 2-3 weeks later, came back to me and said he'd like to reconsider my offer. So purchased a minority share of the company, worked there as managing partner for a period of time, left in 2010 to go out and do it on my own.
And that's when you started full-time fitness?
That's when I started full-time fitness.
Yeah, so let's pause there for a minute, Mike, because
Yeah.
Matt said a lot of insights there that I think are worth digging in on and that people really need to hear. And I'll give you the first one that I heard, and tell me some of the things that you heard too. One of it, you go back to his days of selling the blow pops, right? And he said it's just the progress, right? And that success was, to rephrase it, was about stacking the wins, right? It's about getting a small win and coming back and getting another one. You start to stack those small wins and it added up. And I think so many people who try to become entrepreneurs think that they're going to hit this home run right out of the gate. Well, if anybody knows baseball, singles win games too, right? You got to be on base. And
Totally.
That's what he was doing there. And I think it's a great lesson because it doesn't always just come in a big wave. It rarely ever does, to be honest with you. But you get these small wins and you build on those, and that's where success can come from.
You know what? Can I comment on that real quick?
Sure, bro.
So, you know what? And for anybody that's listening, I think it's also important to note that I still don't even know if I'm doing a good job. I'm 40 years old. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I can look at my stack of wins and I can see that, I've done pretty well. Am I where I want to be? No, but that's what keeps me going. But the fact is
ambition.
Yeah, and anything can happen. 2 years from now, I might, God forbid, I might lose everything in the last 23 years have gone for nothing. So it's important that you find something that you love, because if you're doing it just to rack up the wins, then there will come a time that you're going to rack up the losses too. And how many is going to be enough for you to say that's it? If you're in it because you love what you do, and there's a certain amount of personal progress where you feel yourself grow within your own skin, you feel like your abilities are improving, your confidence is improving, then even when you go through some of the losses, which, I've certainly taken a bunch on the chin, if you remind yourself why you were really here in the first place, then it certainly helps you weather those storms. So, you know, it's no way to know if what you're doing is working, if you're even going to be a success. I mean, it really depends on the length of your timeline. But I like to think that so far I'm doing pretty good, given the fact that I had plenty of opportunity to give up along the way too.
Yeah, for sure. Great point, Matty. And what I would say too is, you know, we're big fans of John Maxwell, and he talks about, you found your sweet spot, right? Where he talks about when you're in that top 5% of what you do, meaning you're better than 95% of everyone else, but you really found that you're in that top 5%. When you found it, that's your sweet spot. You're stacking wins. You feel confident, you know you're good. I think that can really help propel you to have that ambition. And also when you're going through those times when things maybe aren't going perfect and you have to really work through some adversity, you're able to do that, right? So I think it's a fantastic point about being in that zone where you're at, right? It started that day when you went and took that certification and everything, where you're at there with that 5%. I also love the fact too, you talked about you were a yes man when you got to the job. Nothing was beneath you. Nothing, well, I'm not doing that because I'm training people. That's a lot of folks that get into our business, and any business for that matter. They think they're above certain things, right? Oh, I'm not doing that. Even if it's for the good of the business, where you didn't have that attitude. And I'm sure you look for the same, characteristics in people that you hire now. Absolutely, right? So
absolutely,
I think that's a fantastic point, especially for anybody that's coming up in the business, is be that yes man. It's not to degrade you. It doesn't make you less than. It's really, you're learning the business. You're showing, look, I'm all in here. I'm willing to do whatever that I can do to help this business win right now. I think that's a really great point you brought up earlier.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you miss the opportunity to say yes to everything, even the little things, and whoever it is that's superior to you, or your boss, or your manager, or even your conscience, if you want to prove that you're capable, you want to prove that you are reliable, and that no matter how menial the task, that you're up for it and you're going to do it to the best of your ability, because somebody out there is going to factor in that, if I gave you something so easy to do, or I gave you something to do that really helped me out, and you just kind of pussyfoot through it, you don't really do a good job, you get it done, but just to get it done, then when a bigger opportunity comes up and I need somebody to lead a project, or I need somebody to really, think about something for me, you're probably the last person I'm going to go to, because if you couldn't do something simple, you're not going to be able to do something complex. And if you couldn't do something easy, then I'm certainly not going to rely on you to do something hard. So it's important that you do take every single opportunity to prove that you're capable and you're reliable, you're honest, and that you do a good job no matter what. Because people, it's those little wins, and if I can't count on you when the weather's going, when the weather's good and things are easy, then I'm not really going to have confidence that I can count on you when things are getting harder, that I need something important done. So you really have to pick that low-hanging fruit, do the easy things and do them well, because they're easy. And then you will find yourself in an opportunity to really impress somebody with something hard. I mean, you really do create your own luck.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're providing value to the business. Too many people are worried about providing value to themselves, or even to their boss sometimes, but you're providing value to the business. If the action that you're taking, the choice you're making is for the benefit of the business, it's probably a good one. Still to this day, we say no to nothing with our customers. We do that? Yes, we can do that. We'll figure it out, right? But, I was like you, when I started in the industry back in my exercise days, I said, hey, go stand in the nursery and hold the babies. Cool. Hey, the toilet's backed up. Cool. Whatever it was, mop the floor, whatever. I don't care. Oh, I'm the PT, I have a master's degree in XFiz. Who cares, right? Exactly. It's about learning the business. But again, too many people come in, this is my title, or these are my credentials. Nobody cares. They care about if you're serving the needs of the business. And I think it's a great lesson. But I also love that you listen to somebody who was a little bit further down the road than you in the business, Andy, and taking the advice that, look, man, here's how you get ahead. Here's what you do. And a lot of people, again, they let their ego get in the way and say, no, I don't need that. But you didn't do that. And that led well to your success and really learning the sales skills too. because that, you know, again, a lot of personal trainers shy away from that. Oh, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a trainer. Oh, that's nice, Jack. Well, you got to sell stuff too. And that if you didn't have any sales skills and you went out to start your own business, full-time fitness, you'd have been out of business your first 6 months because there's no money tree back there, right?
That's right. That's right. And everything is sales, especially in this industry. Everything is sales. You might not realize it, and that might be a problem for a lot of people, because if you don't fully understand that you are on stage, you are being watched, and there are 100,000 other people out there to claim to do what you do, you have to show people that you are indispensable, that you are valuable, and that you are committed to their cause. Because if you're not, then they're going to find somebody that is, and that person that is probably more passionate about what they're doing than you are. It's incidental for them, that tremendous work ethic. You shouldn't have to talk yourself into working your ass off. You either got it or you don't. And I think that everybody out there should appeal to somebody that's got the experience that they need to make a better decision. I mean, I ask people all the time. I seek out people that know the answers to my questions, not because they've thought of them, but because they've been through it and they learned it the hard way. So everybody everywhere, if you don't already do it, you certainly have to go out there and appeal to the people that know more than you do. Plus the people that have been in the industry for a long time, any industry, if they're passionate about what they do, they would want nothing more than to find somebody they can tuck under their wing and groom to do things the way that they wish they would have done them. So I think it's important to appeal to those, to the veterans. It's important to appeal to the people that have gone through what you're going through, and pick their brain, ask them what they would have done different. How could they have gotten it done faster? How can they have gotten it done better? And always just try to improve on themselves.
Let me ask you this, Matt. How many facilities would you say are in Morristown, New Jersey?
What kind of facility? You mean like general membership gyms, personal training?
Who cares?
Anywhere you can work
Big box, yeah, anywhere you can work out, including the park, where I don't even need a membership. How many places would you say are in Morristown?
I would say that, if that's your criteria, then infinite. But as far as people that are taking your money and exchanging you a service that's in the business, I would say in the central business district, which is Morristown proper, right in the middle, there's probably 15 or 20.
So you've got 20 in Morristown proper. There's a lot of surrounding towns. And yes, my question about parks matters too, because Infinite, you are competing with them, whether we think it or not. They don't need any of us. They don't need my equipment. They don't need your facility to get fit, right? They can go out there, pull up something on the internet and go do it. But yet you have a thriving business in the center of all of that, right? Mm-hmm. And not only one that has been in business over 10 years, which statistically is not probable, as you know. Right. And you've won an award for being one of the best gyms in the state of New Jersey for all those years. So all that being said, how do you do it? Like, what's the difference at Full-Time Fitness compared to all the rest of these facilities?
The difference is, I don't know the answer to that question, because I don't know what everybody else is doing. I know what I'm doing. I mean, you're 100% right that, listen, I know people that have lost 100 pounds and have done it without a trainer. I know people that can't lose 5 pounds no matter how many people they hire. So, the fact is that people don't need fitness professionals to achieve their fitness goals. People need fitness professionals to achieve their fitness goals without breaking too many things on the way out. I mean, weight loss is easy. Just stop eating. Building muscle is easy. Lift heavy, lift a lot, and eat a lot. So it's not rocket science. What's rocket science is that you've got to do it in a way that makes the machine operate better every minute from here on out. And I mean, that's a slightly different conversation, but I mean, as far as what do I do that's different, I don't know. But what I do is I focus on trying to provide the best service for the best possible price that I can. I am passionate about what I do, and I feel like I've got a great philosophy and a great message that can benefit every single person out there. I think that everybody in the world, including personal trainers, would benefit from hiring a personal trainer. And everybody else, including those people, would benefit from somebody that is a human movement specialist or a corrective exercise specialist. I think that those two criteria certainly give clients an advantage. So because of my training and my background and my history, and that I look through the lens of corrective exercise whenever I program a client's workouts or their calendar, I think that the market's beginning to see value in that. The market's beginning to see that, you know, you could lift weights all day long, but if you're not taking care of tissue health, if you're not paying attention to the way that the body moves, the things that we're doing when we're not in the gym, sitting down all day, you know, repetitive movements and things like that, they all accumulate into some pretty nasty things on a long enough timeline. If you've got a fitness professional that can identify what these patterns are and program into their workout ways to mitigate that, then that makes sure that this machine's going to run a whole lot longer and a whole lot better than it would have otherwise. So, you know, as far as what these people are doing in town, I don't know, but I know that the race that I'm running is really against the clock. I've only got, God willing, another 45, 50 years on this planet. I've got another probably 7.7 billion people that I've got to get to in order to help them change their lives. So I think that that's my competition. My competition is the clock. All the other guys in town, they can compete with each other over price and over, you know, bells and whistles and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to get to as many people as I can in as little time as I've got left, and try to help them change the way that they think about their fitness and their movement.
Matt, you mentioned that a couple of times about changing lives, right? And if you may or may not know, you know, our purpose here at the Abs Company is we change lives from the core.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you say that, it absolutely resonates with Sean and I, right? And what we do here. But you just mentioned about, you know, about what you do different. Now, I'm going to assume something, that you're definitely, out of those 20 plus facilities or infinite facilities within your local area, you're probably not the cheapest, am I right? Or less, you're probably not the, as far as there's folks that are a little less expensive, I'll say, or it costs less to go. Am I correct in that?
As far as I know, I'm the most expensive general membership fitness facility, and as far as I know, I'm also the most expensive personal trainer to work with personally in Morristown. To the best of my knowledge, I am, but I also know that our training rates are also priced a little bit higher than all the competitors that I'm aware of. Yeah, we're the most expensive.
So that being said, because we hear a lot about price, right, and this and that, how are you able to thrive and succeed, being that, sure, they could go down the street and, you know, get someone that's a little bit less expensive than you? You know, how are you able to still succeed in that, knowing that you're the most expensive?
Mike, that is an awesome question. I've got two answers for that. One answer is, how do I compete for a market among legitimate fitness professionals? I do that. I rely a lot on my experience. I speak to my experience and my knowledge confidently. Mm-hmm. And I don't know of many people that have come in interested in working with a trainer, found out that we're more expensive than they budget for, and tell me that it's not worth it. More often, it's my understanding that they regret that they're not able to afford it, because they certainly see the value in it. You know, I don't bullshit anybody. I mean, what I know is what I know, and I'm quick to admit what I don't know. I know what my lane is. I stay inside of my lane, and I don't try to be all things to all people. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and I don't badmouth anybody else. I mean, there's every single trainer out there, every single legitimate trainer out there has something that my business can benefit from, should they contribute to my business in some way. So, you know, everybody's great at what they're great at, and, you know, I'm things that I'm great at are, you know, might not be very many, but I excel at those. And I think that everybody's got that. Now, the big problem for me, and I think a big problem for the industry in the state, if not the country, is that there are a ridiculous number of fitness professionals out there that aren't credentialed or misrepresent themselves as being credentialed. And those are the people that I have the hardest time competing with, because in this day and age, when people are shopping, they like to sort by price. And I know that if people sort by price, then I'm going to end up on the bottom because I'm the most expensive. And I'm okay with that. But the people that are going to show up at the top of that list are the ones that don't have to pay for their education, for their continuing education. They don't have to pay for their experience. They don't have a real business that they're running. What they're doing is they're bottom feeding, they're scavenging. They're trying to find the people that are willing to work with their bullshit story and pay a cheaper rate. It's not uncommon that somebody will come in and say, well, wait a second. You want me to pay you $130 an hour to work with you when I can go down the street and pay somebody $35 to do the same thing? And my response is always the same, that you're not paying them to do the same thing. You might, I could probably find somebody that you could pay $20 to stand there and tell you what to do and how to do it. Whether they're right or not doesn't really matter. The consumer doesn't really know any better. So my greatest competition isn't necessarily my local competition. It's the people out there that say they do what we do, but they don't do what we do. Interestingly enough, New Jersey, you have to be licensed to paint fingernails. You have to be licensed to do acupuncture, for chiropractic, for physical therapy. I mean, the list goes on. I have to be licensed to sell gym memberships in New Jersey, but I don't need a license to work with you as a personal trainer, which is a whole lot more dangerous. I've got a whole lot more responsibility working as a trainer than I do as a nail tech, and not taking anything away from the nail techs, but any idiot can go online, pull up a workout and say, all right, today we're going to do 500 squats today. And that person represents themselves as a fitness professional. And because they do, and because somebody's paying for it, they trust that this person knows what they're doing. There's a huge problem in that, because one, it's an existential threat for legitimate personal trainers and fitness professionals out there, because we're being undercut by people that shouldn't even be here. And two, I guess most importantly, is for the consumer, you've got people out there practicing medicine, movement medicine, that shouldn't be practicing movement medicine, but yet they're prescribing, they're administering, they're coaching, they're cueing. It's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. And what's going to happen is, if we don't do something about that sooner than later, then the people that we don't want to make the rules are going to end up making the rules, because we overreact when there's tragedy and when there's crisis. Yeah. And all it takes is, one client to have a trainer working with them and give them a heart attack because that trainer didn't do a PAR-Q or didn't do a thorough health history, find out exactly what this person needs and what they can't do. They didn't contact their cardiologist, and then all of a sudden this person drops of a heart attack.
Yeah, what's crazy about that is, in 25 years I've been in the industry, that discussion hasn't changed, right? Yeah. It's been the same thing, and what it's going to take to move that metric, I don't really know, but we are in full agreement with you that something should be done, because that, the analogy of the person painting nails or changing your tire or whatever is very well made, that you have to have a license. But in the state of New Jersey and many others, and we do business in over 50 countries around the world, and it's not different there either in most places, and something needs to happen. But what I call that is, ultimately it's a race to the bottom. And Mike, where the race to the bottom ends? At the bottom, right? At the bottom. And that's not a place you want to be with your health. So anybody listening, it's about price versus value, right? Yeah, you can get a better price, but you don't put a price on your health. You put a value on your health. And
right.
$130 an hour, Matt's cheap. Let's raise price tomorrow. Let's get that up there, 200 plus.
Minimum.
Let's change gears for a minute here, because I know we can go. We are all passionate on that topic, and we could have another chat about that to see what we can do as veterans in the industry to try to make some change there. But I was reading about your recent experience with the Spartan race, the Killington race, which is one, for anybody who doesn't know, that's one of the most challenging, one of the most difficult Spartan races in the world, right, Matt?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 30-mile race, or those in the metric world, that's 50K, 50, not 5K, 50K, and in the mountains of Killington, Vermont. And so, what inspired you to do that race, Matt?
It was there. It was there, and I like to do things that I'm not quite. I like to try to do things that I'm not completely sure that I can do or not. I was talking with a friend of mine who does Spartan races, and this was actually the only race that I did this year. I usually do a handful. I hadn't done one. Spoke to this guy who was doing. He did a Spartan Beast somewhere, which is roughly 15 miles, and he was mentioning something about the Ultra, and I'd actually never heard of the Ultra before. So talking to him about it, he said, "Yeah. You know, it's pretty nuts. There's one in Killington in September, and he was thinking about doing it. So I looked it up online and said, you know what? I think I'm either crazy enough or stupid enough to give this thing a shot. So let me go for it. I waffled on it for about a couple weeks and finally decided, you know what? I'm just going to go online and pay for it. And then once it's paid for, I'm going to have to do it. So I just put myself in that position. So you know, I blinked and there I was enrolled, and now it's time to train for it. So it was certainly a hell of an experience. It was the hardest physical thing that I've ever had to do in my life.
How long did you train for that race?
So in earnest, I trained for about 11 weeks.
Wow.
And it wasn't enough.
I love what you said about you signed up, right? You put the money down, you put your neck on the line. And that's a big thing. We talk here a lot about commitment, and that's one way to do it, right? You put yourself out there and say, look, I'm in it, man. Now what? You know, because you put that out there and you told people about it and they're holding you accountable. I think that's fantastic because that's a daunting task in front of you all the way through those 11 weeks. I'm sure I watched some of your training on Facebook, actually, some of the things you were doing in the parks. I would see your runs. I'm like, man, he's really going for this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I just jump, you know, decide that you want to do it. Don't argue with yourself about it. Turn off your mind until you're done signing up for it. And then once you're in.
Matt, what was the reaction from your clients when you told them you're going to do this and you were training for it? Were they like fully supportive? Were they really like jacked up for you or what? Like how pumped up were they that you were going to do this?
I love that question. I would say 80% of them were behind me 100% and really excited to watch me do it and excited for me to accomplish that. And then, I'd say, maybe 1 out of 5 people that I had spoken to about it had asked me, you know, why do you want to do it? Why and you know what, as insulting as it was, I didn't let it seem that it was insulting, but you know, you're 40 years old. You really need to be doing this. And I needed those people though, you know, honestly, I don't think I would have trained so hard if I didn't have those voices in my head asking me why. And I wouldn't be able to explain it to them, even if I had all the time in the world. It's like, I don't know if either of you guys have tattoos. I've got a couple. And when somebody looks at my sleeve and they're like, so what does it all mean? It's not even worth explaining. I'd have to spend 40 years explaining to you moment by moment, experience by experience, trying to make it make sense to you. So it's very much.
People ask me those questions, Matt. I say it means DWAI. Know what that means? Don't worry about it. New Jersey thing. Don't worry about it.
Right.
And to your point, look, if somebody asks you that, that's just not in their DNA. Like, oh, why are you gonna do it? They're, you know, it's just not. So, hey, cool, man. That's great. You know, and that's what you wanted to do. It's not for you. That's all good.
So let's get into the race a little bit, Matt. You get there race day. I know it was a cold day, right? You're in Vermont. It's always fucking cold up there, but there it's raining, I hear. So you're going along, and I just want to skip ahead to mile 13, right? Because this seems to be an iconic point in the race with you. And when I was reading this story, I'm like, holy cow, because you know I'm not the sharpest bulb, Matt, but I could do a little math. I'm like, he wasn't even halfway done. Not even halfway done, and you had hit a challenge here. So tell us what happened at mile 13.
So the whole mountain, it's a mountain, and honestly, I went there a little bit. I went there ill prepared for the actual race. I had done a lot of running and a lot of hard running in preparation for it. You know, 8, 10, 15 miles with a 50-pound weighted vest on my back, running it as hard as fast as I could. I mean, I got my cardio up, but fact is out of the whole race, maybe I ran a mile and a half. There was just too much hiking that had to take place. The terrain was too rugged for me to actually run. So I wasn't as trained for it as I could have been. And then I think next time around, I'll be better prepared for it. But mile 13, climbing up one of the slopes, and these slopes are wicked. I mean, they're so high that you're making progress in some cases inches at a time because it's so steep, and the next foothold is only, a couple of inches away. So climbing up this mountain, doing the best that I can. A lot of things are going through your head. You don't have any music. You've got nothing to distract you. You've just got the voices in your head, and depending on which one's the loudest, that's the one that really stands out. So at some point, I got this voice in my head just reminding me how bad everything hurt. My knees were killing me. My hips were killing me. I think I had traumatized one of my hip flexors on my left side so bad that I couldn't any longer walk straight up. I had to walk sideways, hike up this mountain sideways. And I must have stopped for a minute, and I heard this voice come from behind me. He says, "Come on, man. I'm keeping up with you. Let's go." And I look past me, and I see this guy that looked like he shouldn't have been there. He was quite round. He appeared to be quite out of shape. He was in better shape than I was in terms of how he was performing up this portion of the race. But I look back, I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing here? Like, he shouldn't be here right now, but he's on my tail, and he's telling me I got to go. So, at that moment, I took another step because I'm not going to I had a little bit too much pride to let this guy pass me. Yeah. But long story short, this guy being right there up this slope literally pushed me up this mountain, almost like two magnets repel each other. The closer he got to me, the farther away I had to get. And I mean, we're talking matters of feet here. It wasn't like I was way ahead of this guy, but he was literally walking in lockstep with me up this mountain. I'd pick my foot up and I'd grab another foothold, and his foot would go right to where my foot just was. And we went like that probably, I trying to estimate distance. It was probably about 2K from the time that I ran into him, or I noticed that he was behind me, to the top of the mountain. And, in my head, I knew that I had to get up this mountain for this guy. I mean, he said he's following me. I can't let him down. And he wouldn't let me down either. I mean, I think he must have seen the look on my face when I looked back and appeared kind of shocked that, this guy who looked more like your typical 30-something-year-old craft beer drinking middle-aged guy that, wears a t-shirt when he goes to the beach. And here he is. And in spite of all the training that I did, all the hard work that I put in to train for this moment, this guy is right behind me. And I'm pretty sure that you read it. It dawned on me that it really doesn't matter what your body is capable of. It matters what your mind is capable of. And if David Goggins, I've been listening to him a lot lately, and he says that, when you think you're finished, when you honestly think you're finished, you're only about 40% done. And this guy really embodied that for me, because I thought I was finished. I read
what you said about him. It was a beautiful statement. You said training didn't get him there, believing did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought, what a beautiful statement that is, because, I relate everything back to business and to life as well. And, athletics, training, races, I do a lot of running races myself. They're just metaphors, right, for everything else we're going. And it's just like in the business, right? 10 years in the business that you're in, all the prep, all that time at exercise, all the selling blow pops, all that, that's the training. But all that goes out the window because it's yesterday, right? It's believing that you can take that one more step today that got you up there. And that's what got this guy there. I just thought that was such a fantastic statement and a metaphor for how to just keep going. So that was amazing. Did you ever speak with this gentleman, like when you got to the top of that summit? Because again, I have to imagine the top of that summit, you're probably only at mile 14 or so?
Yeah, maybe, if that, give or take. No, I didn't talk to him again. It was a single serving encounter, and I could still see his face. I know I'd recognize him in a crowd, and I hope that I see him again, because I hope that he either read what I wrote or that I see him again, because I want to let him know the impact that he made for me. I mean, listen, I'm 40 years old. I'm out there running when it's 10 degrees outside or 105 degrees outside. I'm the crazy guy with the weighted vest, and you know that's me. And when I work out, I work out hard. I stand out when I work out because I'm that guy. And I can only imagine that when I'm running or I'm working out and people are watching me, that you know, they comment to themselves and they see that this is possible. Now, whether they excuse it for themselves or not, it's another story. But I'm sure that I've inspired people by doing what I do for my own reasons. And it was interesting to me that at this moment, I'm inspired by one of the people that I've inspired. And, you know, somebody like me pulled his ass off the couch and told him that he should at least attempt this. And he doesn't know that somebody like him motivated somebody like me to try harder and really get the most out of myself, in spite of my agony, in spite of my pain, in spite of, you know, the challenges that I were facing. I mean, this guy, if he wasn't there, I don't know if I would have made it up that mountain.
Yeah, what a beautiful cycle of inspiration, right?
Yeah.
You said here, I want to bring this home. You said that at that moment, you realized your responsibility as an incidental inspiration. And I thought that was a very unique way of saying that. Tell us what you meant by that.
So I realized that being an incidental inspiration, so back to me working out and knowing that people are probably taking note of the things I'm doing or how hard that I'm working, you know, I'm inspiring them incidentally at that moment. And I've got a responsibility to make a new voice inside of my head that just reminds me that people are watching. You know, I've got kids, so, you know, I knew that they were at the race. I know that they watch me when I train and I run. Whenever I come home, my son always asks me, "Daddy, how far did you run?" When I tell him, you know, I did 14 miles. He's like, 14 miles? You know, so I know that, you know, he's watching. I know that my kids are watching, and I'm letting them know that they can set the bar ridiculously high. So, and that's just incidental for me doing what I do. But I've got a responsibility. I think we all have a responsibility to assume that somebody is watching in a moment when they're in need of some sort of drive, of some factor that's going to enhance their efforts at whatever they do or compel them to do something new and challenging. And it's important that we feel those eyeballs on us all the time. You know, another example of being an incidental inspiration. So out here, I live in rural New Jersey. It's all hills out here. You know, whenever there's no flat spaces. I live actually in my yard is the highest elevation in Warren County. So no matter which way I run, the leg home is always uphill. And when I'm out running on a nice weekend and there's other people out there walking their dogs or jogging, I've a number of times been running and seen somebody way off in the distance that looks like they're getting into running. And this is probably one of the first handfuls of time that they're doing this. And they'll jog and they'll walk, they'll jog and they'll walk. And I'm cruising with my weighted vest on. And what I've always noticed is that whenever I approach these people, if we're running towards each other, that the people that really, really want it are the ones that won't walk by me when I run by. These people run by when I run by. They assure themselves that they will not let me see them dog it, that they are going to prove to me and to themselves that they are going to work as hard as I'm working, you know, and it's all relative. 100% for me is 100% for everybody else. But I always find it interesting that when I'm running out here and I see somebody that's having a really hard time, that I inspire them enough that they run by me. They don't walk by me. They don't want me to see them not try their hardest. And that's another example of being an incidental inspiration. You know, when your presence, when your behavior compels somebody to do something that's a little bit outside of their comfort zone but benefits them, then you know that you're doing something right, and you've got a tremendous amount of responsibility. Because if I was walking, she would have had no reason to run by me. She would have walked too, you know, when in Rome. So
yeah, I think it's a great lesson that Matt's saying, Mike. For us as leaders, as business owners, as parents, somebody is always watching. I love the way you say you're an incidental inspiration, because you don't have to inspire people all the time every day, but because you're not in contact with all the people all the time every day. But when they see you, are you doing the things that you preach? Are they seeing what you're saying, as I like to say? And if you are, and you're being successful at it, you too can be that incidental inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about, Matt alluded to the fact that he's 40 years old, right?
He's young.
He's a young dude, yeah. I'm coming up on 50, man. So been training my whole life, and I'm sure like you get that, like, oh man, back in the day I was in really good shape, and you hear that, right? And they're looking for an excuse. They're looking for a way out to say, yeah, you're right. You're 35 years old. Your life's over at this point. But
Right.
Obviously we don't say that. And obviously, even more than words is you're leading by the example. Look, you have a family, you have your own business, but you feel great. You look great, and more importantly is you're helping others just by being you, just by doing what you love to do is really so important, man. So I commend you for that. And that's in your gym when you're training folks there, Matt, or when you're training outside your gym, like you said, where you're on your runs, your crazy runs with your vest. You're inspiring people, man. And that's big because they may not even know your age, but they know, okay, this guy ain't 20, I'm sure, right? They say, shit, if he can do it, maybe I can do it, and the whole thing. So yeah, good for you for doing that, man.
Yeah, man. I'll say that if we can all live a life where just by being who we are inspires others to be a little bit better than they were yesterday, then that is the definition of a life well lived. I think, Matt, that you are an inspiration to many people, and I think you can touch a lot more. So if people want to learn more about your facility or about you, where can they find you?
If you want to check me out, fulltimefit.com. Is the business
fulltimefit.com, fulltimefit.com. Got it.
Great,
Yep.
That's the business page. Morristown Patch is where I publish a lot of my articles right now. So if you go to Morristown Patch and search me, Matthew Scarfo, you'll find my biography and a number of the pieces that I've written. And I'm currently working on a personal website where people can go and see all the different things that I'm doing and the different places that I'm going.
Awesome. Well, Matt, you got a heck of a story. I hope that you keep telling that story because it matters and it's important. It's impressive and it's inspiring. So thanks for your time today. Thanks for being with us. Look forward to chatting with you again. Until next time, folks, remember that the core of success is you.
Big things.